этом собрании.
20-х годов была не только местом молитв, но и центром общинной жизни. Но смогла уже проявить себя как конструктивная и влиятельная организация, которая не только объединяет еврейский народ, но и, должен сказать, и мы в руководящих структурах страны чувствуем ее влияние на себе. Она влияет и на нас.
На месте вот этого прекрасного сооружения.
Адонай eye ozer li, הפכתם בשבילי למחול לי.
Here, just at the place, which for us was like a symbol of the place of pogroms and persecutions and fires and attempts to destroy our identity. At this place, we now see this building, a great building of community center, with the blessing and participation of the president. No doubt symbolizes a lot about a new era.
We personally believe that radically, inside the heart of the people, there was always respect and love for the Jewish people. When the government was against it, it automatically showed on the people. When the government shows support, it's for sure going to show in the hearts of the people, and we believe that the Jews are welcome here.
The Jewish Religion, Its Influence Today, by Elizabeth Dilling. Chapter 13, Modern Jewish Anti-Communism. Today, protective propaganda fills the press, aimed to make it appear that communism and Jewry are enemies. Careful reading of the Jewish and communist press reveals that the collective farms, even the whole Soviet system, is threatened with collapse from within for lack of wheat, now being supplied by the USA, and lack of other necessities. Racketeers who have been profiteering and lining their pockets with millions grabbed from the collectives are being tried and executed. Most of them happen to be Jews. Quelling and stopping swindling of Jews is represented as causeless anti-Semitism, and the UN and the USA are being called upon to stop this cruel treatment. Meanwhile, Jewish control of Soviet Russia continues. Lazar Kaganovich, former all-powerful head of all Soviet industry, a Jew whose family intermarried with Stalin's, is no longer in power, but his place as an all-powerful dictator of Soviet industry has been taken by another Jew, Demishits. Sorry, I can't help but laugh at that. Demshits. It's spelled D-Y-M-S-H-I-T-S. Demshits. Anyways. Careful reading of the press as to anti-Semitism alleged to exist in Soviet Russia reveals it to be either directed as Zionist Jews who favor a world power structure dominated from Israel, or concerning minor matters such as availability of matzos on Jewish holidays and similar trivialities. However, the basic domination of the communist world by Jews, enforced since Jacob Schiff, Max Warburg, Trotsky, Litvinov, Lenin, and others orchestrated the communizing of Christian Russia, continues. One of the perpetual difficulties of the Jewish Talmudist is putting communism into power and then concealing the Talmudic origin and direction of it. That Jewish look arouses what is foolishly called anti-Semitism on the part of the collectivized populations suffering under their control. In the 1950s, the American press was seething with the cases of red spies, atomic and otherwise, who had long been operating to sell out American secrets to the Soviets. The Rosenbergs, Harry Gold, and others were convicted. Code messages carried to and from Jacob Epstein, a communist agent in Mexico City, by a USA communist agent were exposed. Abraham Brothman and Miriam Moskowitz were convicted as spies. Quote, FBI hands tied after agents trap red spies, end quote, headed a February 18, 1950 Chicago Tribune report of Willard Edwards concerning Nathan G. Silvermaster, Russian-born Jew J. Peters, alias Isidore Borenstein, and others. One thing in common was that the spies who were being exposed as communist agents were Jewish. The American Jewish Committee, whose emphasis is on their, quote, global responsibility to Jewries, was not idle. In their American Jewish Yearbook, volume 54 of 1952, was this, quote, the widely publicized recent indictments and trials for espionage, the evidence brought forth at investigative hearings, gave rise early last summer to a concern lest there result an increasing association of Jews with communism in the minds of the general American public, end quote. By the order of the Executive Committee, we are told, quote, an intensive educational program addressed to Jews and non-Jews alike with respect to communism, end quote, was adopted. To quote page 55 of the same source, during 1950, we stressed the role of the Jew in the fight against communism. We have employed the mass media to feature the activities of Jewish individuals who vigorously oppose communist totalitarianism. We have enlisted the active participation throughout our chapters of Jewish groups in such enterprises as the Crusade for Freedom. We have also exerted our influence to disassociate Jews themselves from their activities of communists and fellow travelers, end quote. This is mentioned the Jewish People's Fraternal Order, a Jewish section of the Communist Party's International Workers' Order, and its recent disaffiliation, quote, from Jewish communities in various parts of the country, end quote. One must ask how or why a large communist Jewish organization became an integral part of Jewish communities in the first place. Control of various American Legion activities, the use of periodicals reaching millions of people with propaganda articles written by the American Jewish Committee, plus committee writing of faith and freedom readers for Catholic schools, material for the National Council of Churches, the Methodist Church, propaganda work on the Genocide Convention, which aims to punish anyone who causes a group of, such as Jews, mental harm, is also detailed, and is also so factual, so fantastic in scope, as to defy description. These wide-ranging activities must be studied to be believed. Title: Foreign Changes. With communism triumphant over much of Europe, the blatant Jewish look had also to be changed concerning communist governments abroad, so as to mask these governments as being native ones, instead of the Jewish authored and run vehicles, which they are, and have been. Country by country, the action taken to change the face of communist governments, of the Jewish look, is taken up in detail in the American Jewish yearbooks. The false propaganda given the general public is that communists are anti-Jewish. In Hungary, native hatred of Jewish rule has inspired many Hungarian Jews to immigrate to Israel. In Hungary, to quote the American Jewish Yearbook of volume 54 on page 296, quote, a considerable number of persons of Jewish descent held positions in government service, including that of the political police. Hence, many anti-communists blame the Jews for their sufferings under the communist dictatorship. The Jews were hated by the regime as traitors, as Zionists, and as cosmopolites. From the outset, the anti-Jewish campaign was carried on with special zeal by communist leaders of Jewish descent, such as ex-premier Matthias Rakossi and the ministers Enro ChiRho and Joseph Reve, end quote. In communist Romania, Jewess Anna Parker had become premier, together with a large group of other Jewish officials. Some of them were taken from office, according to the American Jewish Yearbooks, volumes 54 and 55. In communist Czechoslovakia, according to American Jewish Yearbooks, there were high Jewish officials in the office of the premier, and in the ministers of foreign affairs, foreign trade, and information, and Secretary General Rudolf Slansky was also Jewish. Others included Vyacheslav Fuchs, party secretary in Ostrava, Hannes Lomsky, son of rabbi and party secretary of Pisen, Ruzena Dubova, a party secretary in Brno, Jin Bedich Regsin, head of Army Intelligence, and Irvin Polak, Deputy Minister of the Interior, Bedřich Jermender, former representative of Czechoslovak Communist Party in the Komintern, Gustav Beres, Deputy Secretary General and Chief of Party Propaganda, Koloman Moscow, one of the 4 chief party secretaries in Slovakia, Ludwig Frečka, one of the authors of the Czechoslovak 5-year plan, Joseph Goldman, Deputy Chief of the Planning Office, Rudolf Margulies, Deputy Minister of Foreign Trade, and others. Many of these Jewish officials left office or went to less prominent positions. However, one asks why so many communist Jews ever came to power in these countries, unless part of a Jewish-controlled world movement. Alright guys, that does it for chapter 13. Next will be chapter 14. This is the last chapter coming up. It's titled Prophecy and the Developing Antichrist World Government. Thank you for listening, and catch you next time.